Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the very first episode of the Not So Late Show with Panni. Our guests tonight are Henry and Pingu.
Thanks for having me on this particular program.
Start again! Ow.
Dim.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
You look like you're doing that for the first time.
It's like our first day.
It's more awkward than our first day. Our first day was
true.
kind of natural.
I'm already crying.
Why? Oh, because you remember those beautiful northern lights we've seen on our first day. That was magnificent.
Was it?
Well, you didn't like the car, you didn't like the place, but and we didn't saw the northern lights at the place I chose, but on the way back we saw them from the car, and then we stopped, and then we went out, and yes, and then you liked them.
I liked you.
Oh yes, otherwise I wouldn't be here.
But let's start from
The beginning.
yes, how we met, because I already wrote about that in one of my blog posts, but now you can tell your version.
I wasn't prepared for that. I was visiting a friend. The friend had to work that day, and I spent the day in the house where that friend lived, and particularly not only that friend lived there, but also you. And you had a day off. We were sitting on a table, struggling a little bit with your computer, and then we started chatting about random stuff, and that felt actually very good. And then you took pictures of your room for your blog,
Oh, yeah.
and started crying on my shoulder, here on that one.
Probably the other one.
No, I think it was that one. I remember it very well.
Aww.
And then I didn't get it out of my hat for the whole next night, and then I just needed to leave. But I wrote you because we connected on Instagram, of course, where else? And then we just made a date.
Yeah, and that brings us to our next question, which is, what was the biggest struggle or challenge that we faced so far together?
Definitely the separation. I think so. What do you think? Being apart from each other for such a long time, especially in that fresh phase where we basically just met and still explored each other.
Yes, and I was questioning everything all the time.
Yeah. Every single day. Several times a day.
But you are very good with words.
That's why I'm a podcast.
And convincing me that it will be alright, everything will be alright.
And it turned out everything was alright when I came home.
Yeah.
So I think there were two things that really struggled, and one was the holidays, when Christmas and New Year's just came around the corner, and
Birthday.
And your birthday, but we saw each other shortly before your birthday, so that was kind of okay for me.
Yeah.
Not so much for you probably, but Christmas and New Year's was at the middle of the first half of my contract, and I was really torn apart because I was missing you so much, but at the same time I loved the places I went very much, and I was really struggling because I couldn't really enjoy it as much as I wanted to, because I couldn't share it with you in that way. I sent you the pictures, and we spoke about that every single day, but luckily we had Wi-Fi connection. Yeah, that was pretty cool. So we actually talked almost every single day, and that helped a lot. Yes. And the second thing that kept me struggling was the end of the season, when everything was in limbo, and I did not know if I'm getting home, if which home, if I'm getting anywhere or whatever. And then the company actually did a terrific job and sent me home to you.
Yeah, this was very stressful. It was for those few days at the end of the season when we didn't know when and how and if you can come home. And how do you like it here since then?
Well, I actually think the moment I got picked up from your and your dad, I got really car sick on the way home because your dad drives like hell. So never drive with her dad. It's really don't. I am known as driving as hell, but that was a different world. But the moment we arrived here, it was really just like coming home. It was never feeling awkward. And that was something I was really surprised myself. But I also at the same time had a lot of people who were asking, when you go to Romania, have you ever been there? And what are you going to do there? It's like, what do you mean? Just live like I would live in every other place. And coming here and just arriving, everything just felt right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a bit of a gamble, I guess. I mean, I was also a bit worried. Also because we haven't spent so much time together before that, like in a long stretch, and then we decided to move in together, and also because you have never been here, and I was a bit afraid that it would be a cultural shock for you.
I was never really scared about the culture. I was never scared about a rural landscape or different lifestyle. I mean, I lived in a camper van before I boarded the ship, so that was not the thing that stressed me out. What stressed me out was just the thought that everything that clicked beforehand probably was just a certain phase, and that we're not that well fitting. That was just the biggest fear I had, but that was never a really big fear because whenever we talked, I never had that feeling. It was really, every time we went on the phone and you came down to Argentina for that week we spent in the mid-season, everything just felt right. So yeah, everything is right.
Yeah, it's funny because before I moved to Iceland, while living in Transylvania means that you see or you encounter quite a few couples who are mixed ethnicity, but I could never imagine myself in such a relationship to not be able to speak my mother language with my partner. And it's funny because it was actually in Iceland that I changed my mind about this, seeing Judith and Andre and their family, that I was thinking that, yeah, maybe it's not such a big problem.
It's not only that I really admire a couple, but it's also in Iceland, you are not using your mother tongue. You are speaking constantly English. And for me, I mainly speak English. I rarely speak German. And for me, that's kind of the norm. It's not my mother tongue, but it's a norm. I still have moments when I struggle to find the right words, and yeah, it just happens. But I think it's just that becomes more natural for our generation because we're traveling quite a lot, and well, not right now obviously, but we used to, and we just use English to communicate with the outside world. That's, I think, the common ground when you travel internationally. You just use English, and I never was afraid of mixed ethnicities or mixed nationalities in a relationship. I mean, I had a couple of international relationships, so that's all right.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the language is just a tool, and it's more about the will to communicate, to share things and be honest.
It's also important. It's an important tool. When you don't have a platform to communicate with each other, if you really struggle and you don't have a language to speak with each other, then I think that's game changer. It's really, really difficult.
Like with my family.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah.
Well, you will learn Hungarian one day. Biztosan. Talán. So you mentioned the shape and zodiac and glaciers and things like that, but some of the people don't actually know what to do.
What a glacier is.
Well, hopefully that's not true. But
Well, people on the ship sometimes don't know what a glacier is.
So yeah, maybe you can tell the people of the internet a bit about your work.
I am working as a tour guide. That's, I think, widest definition. I worked in Iceland as a hiking guide, started working on glaciers as a glacier guide, and then later on as a sitting guide. So I was a lot on bus round trips around the island, and we stop on that sightseeing spot, on that sightseeing spot. I'm constantly talking into a microphone. Sometimes people laugh, sometimes they don't. And that was really a fun time, but then a friend of mine asked me if I want to join a ship. And I really hate cruise ships. That's really just not something that ever came to my mind to work on a cruise ship or anything. And when I got that question, I was just, what? No. She was really persistent. After a few months, the time of the season start, the starting point of that season actually came closer and closer, and she was still struggling looking for guides. And I just said, okay, just put me on. It's circumnavigating Iceland, so probably different perspective on the island. And we were going to a few spots where you rarely get to when you do bus round trips because you're always stuck to the ring road. But that was the beginning of it. That was the starting point for me to get into the ship world, and you get very quickly used to having a schedule where you get up early and do some exciting stuff outside, and you come back, have an amazing lunch, go back out in the afternoon, and come back in the evening, have an amazing dinner, and some nice little fairy has done your whole room and is taking care about laundry. You don't have to think about grocery and about cooking and all those little normal regular daycare stuff which you always have to do when you're back home. So I really started liking that ship, and just for that reason of being lazy in the household, I just decided, okay, I'll just do the whole season. The team was so great, I just wanted to stay in that bubble. On that ship, I really wanted to explore further and just try to go to other places and use that as a bridge into that new world. So I asked some of my colleagues who have been working for other companies if they can give me some contacts, and they luckily did. So I applied with the other companies, and for a reason I don't understand, they immediately accepted me and sent me to Svalbard, to Greenland. So I'm based on those tiny little ships. They vary in range between 12 passengers and 200, 250. My preferred size is between 20 and 150. So everything in between, that's quite nice. 200 is quite large. 250 is just annoying. And 12 is very intense. I like it. So the first time after that Iceland circumnavigation thing, I was hired by a German company on a very small ship with only 12 guests. That was pretty amazing in northern Norway. And with those 12 guests, you were the only guide on board. And after that season, I just got hired by another company for a sailing ship of pretty much the same size, 20 passengers. And we had a moment when the wind was picking up, and they just decided to cut off all the engine and just sail with the sails. And I think I've never had more tears in my eyes at that moment, because it was completely quiet. You just could hear the whales around you. You could hear the waves. You could hear the wind in the sails. Amazing, really great. So yeah, from my time in Iceland, I came along with a passion for ice, glaciers, big icebergs, and that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much why I'm working in the Arctic. And then it took me a couple of years to get a ticket to Antarctica. And now I'm finally with a company I really feel home with, in a way that I feel really well taken care of, in a way that whenever a problem comes up, I always have the feeling that when I call in the office, I'm the only one who has a problem. And I know I'm not. I mean, they have 200 guys working for them, even more. And they probably have much, much more troubles every single day. But they give me, or each people, each person that feeling. And they care about my social life, my private environment, and how to adapt the job with that private life. And that's pretty amazing. They invest a lot in training and certifications, and they made it possible in those very challenging times when you did not know if you actually can enter the country when you board the plane. They made it happen to bring me home. So most of the time I am working on those ships as simply as a guide. So I bring people to places where you can't go differently than with a ship. And the Zodiac is a small inflatable rubber boat. It's not actually that small. It fits 15, 16 people. We usually put 10 guests in there, and I'm driving that. That's pretty amazing. It's a lot of fun. And we take the guests from the ship to the shore on those beautiful boats. We drop them off there, then we walk around, look at pretty amazing stuff, geology, plants, hopefully animals, yes. Wildlife is very, very important. Or glaciers, much more important. If you see wildlife, it's fine. No, Pingu loves the glaciers as well. But sometimes I hold lectures, so I'm talking about a certain topic in detail. As I said, my passion is about glaciers, so I talk a lot about ice and geology and glaciers.
No.
Sometimes, in very few occasions, when we have very small ships, like the 12 or 20 passenger ships, then I'm also expedition leader. So I'm making the plan where to go, what to do, and do all the administration, all the business behind that. It's pretty amazing too, but also very tiring and challenging. So I'm really amazed by all the expedition leaders I work for, especially with the bigger ships. That's much more bureaucracy. Yeah, I think that sums up the job. I forgot something?
Probably. Yeah, so people were curious what you will do now that you live in Transylvania, where there are no glaciers.
That's actually not entirely true. As I found out through research, there are some glaciers in the Carpathian Mountains, and there's a particular ice cave which is really getting my attention. So as soon as all those limitations are lifted, we're definitely going there. Nothing living, just living. It's the first time ever in 15 years that I have such a long stretch off work and off work, and it's actually such a long stretch that I'm actually a bit scared about what to do. But I mean, just the random life, getting up with you, having breakfast, making you coffee, getting stuff done, playing with Frida, cuddling with Pingu, just getting off the mess in the house, and then just having dinner. It's just amazing, just great. And at the end of the day, just figure, oh my god, where did that day go? And I'm not feeling bad about that. I mean, I worked a lot in the past years, and the job is very intense. It's amazing. I don't want to complain about anything there. It's a really amazing job. It brings me to really terrific places, and it's just mind-blowing that I'm able to go there. But it also consumes a lot of energy, and I think that particular time we're in right now should remind us to live a little bit more balanced and just not focus too much on work and just spend more time with the people you love. I mean, we don't know how long we live, and I don't believe on an afterlife or whatever, so I really enjoy every single day, just doing random stuff, and I hope as soon as the restrictions are lifted, I just travel, and I would love to explore Transylvania more. So many amazing things here. We saw lizards, plenty of lizards around in these woods. You should really follow her blog and see some of the lizard pictures. And we went to the woods the other day, and we saw deer running around. And I'm really just curious about more wildlife. Tons of birds, and I hope to see bears and wolves and lynx.
Yeah, but I mean, that wasn't the idea. I mean, all of this is because of the quarantine now, but if it weren't for the coronavirus, you would be leaving around this time.
I would be boarding the ship tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes, so contract started today.
But you still want to go back to the ships?
Yes, I want to. Yeah, no, I definitely continue the ship work. We definitely try to figure out a way to make it more applicable with family life. For now, I think it would be really difficult for me to jump off the ship world just by that.
Okay, I think that's about it.
That's it already?
Yeah.
Oh, I just got into it.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Answering the questions.
I'm Pingo.
I'm Bingo. Thank you for joining us tonight. We hope you liked the show. If you did, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow us on social media. Have a nice evening. Bye.